Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode number 42 of the Wulong Talks podcast. My name is Jason. I'm the host of the podcast, and you should know that by now if you've been listening. And we've got a very special guest who's joining us today. But first of all, let me introduce my partner in crime, the wrestling kid, Rich Kid. Rich, what's up, man?
What's happening? What's happening?
Cool, good to have you. And as I said, we've got a very special guest here with us, a fellow podcaster, somebody who has a hell of a lot in common with us and has a pretty awesome podcast as well, that I've been enjoying a huge amount over the past couple of months. So without further ado, let's introduce Mr. Rob Wade from Emotionally 14. Rob.
Hello, 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 guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you, dude, man.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, dude.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
my
always
pleasure.
it's always awesome when we get to meet, fellow man children and
Yeah, well, you're in good company with me. I'll tell you that much for damn sure.
I mean, literally, for people who know our podcast, we're basically a bunch of guys who sit around chatting for like an hour and a half about the most mundane stuff you can imagine within the geek world. But that's what we do. We love to break down the minutia and stuff. So yeah, it's great as said to have you here, and it's going to be awesome. I think to get into kind of your background and stuff. So we shall get to that very shortly. But first of all, as usual, Rich Kid, what you been up to, man? You been doing any geeky stuff this past week?
Playing Final Fantasy on my phone. So it's basically the Final Fantasy 15, just the mobile version, and it's actually all right, man. I'm actually doing better on the phone version than I was on the PlayStation 4 version, so I'm fucking happy with that. Because that game was hard, man. Like I don't have patience to level up. Like I'm that guy that plays the game and like when it shows you how to level up your characters, and I'm like, well, you have to think and stuff. Now I'll come back to that later on. And then I get to a certain point and I just turn it off. I'm like, nah, forget it. I wait for like 6 months, go on YouTube and I watch the cutscenes and then I know the story and I'm like, yeah, that's it, done. Then I go to CEX and then go buy a button bashing game. I'm a primate like that, bro.
Nah, man, I'm the same way, man. I was playing Arkham Knight a couple of months ago, and I finished that game off, and I did the story, and it was like, right now you get to, if you want the true ending, like all you have to do is get to 100%. I was like, okay, I'm about like 83 or something, and then I looked, it was all Riddler trophies. I was like, fuck,
forget that, man.
Right off. So YouTube is my friend that day.
Hey,
Oh man,
you Riddler trophies for God's sake.
Oh god, there were so many.
Yeah.
And some of them were really boring as well. Like, I don't mind grinding for that shit if it's entertaining, but some of those collectibles, there's so many of them, and they're just so dull. Like, they're not fun to get.
There should be a DLC where instead of getting the Riddler trophies, you just find Riddler and just beat the fuck out of him. Like literally, just like send around Gotham. You think it's funny? You think it's a joke? Okay, come here, whack, and just unleash some combos on his ass, man.
I think that the thing is, I think that the getting all the trophies just unlocks the ability to beat the piss out of him.
In fact, you might be right. Yeah,
tempting as that is, like not enough to grind through that much shit. If I'd already gone through most of the other side, like all the other side quests. So I'd done a fair old bit of games. So I thought, no, fuck that. No.
Yeah.
I just rejected it outright and just looked up on YouTube. I thought, oh, okay. Well, that wasn't worth it, so whatever.
Oh man. Yeah. So yes, that's what I've been up to. The Final Fantasy 15 mobile game. Obviously been reading the comics. Infinity Countdown in Marvel is really, really good. I think Marvel might be onto something on their new reboot, which is going to be coming, I think, in April or May. And back to training, so I'm back to yoga. And just that's it, man. I'm leading a boring life, man. What do? I don't do anything fun anymore. I'm a big man like that. Like we said before we came on, I'm on a Friday night talking to two other men. Whereas like maybe 20 years ago I'd be shit faced. Yeah, man. Yeah, 20 years ago I'd be shit faced kissing some girl, with the risk of maybe getting a bump on my limp. So I don't know, man.
Life hits you fast, man.
It does, man.
Cool. Well, yeah. I mean, my week has been like super busy, just doing like adult stuff. I mean, Rob and I had a short conversation on Twitter about it, and we were just like, yeah, fuck adulthood, man. Adulthood.
I reject it as a premise.
Yeah. I mean, regular listeners to the podcast will know I've been talking about for about 2 months about playing Destiny. I downloaded the original version onto PS4, and I have not cracked the game open yet. Like, it's still sitting there on the hard drive. I've not even had an opportunity to play it. So yeah, it's really just kind of passed me by. I don't know how that's happened. And I downloaded what did I download recently? Right, Marvel Conquest of Champions on my mobile.
Okay.
Nope.
I'm not,
Not even once.
I'm really not. Because I find that mobile gaming is just it's the game, but with none of the kind of fun or you know, the kind of things that you expect.
Do you work in marketing by any chance? All the game, none of the fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's probably what the pitch was when they designed this game. But anyway, I downloaded it, and the thing wouldn't even open on my phone anyway. And I was just so that was a complete waste of my fucking time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But I'm just having real problems with getting games on my phone that I can play offline as well. The offline selection of games is just really
really piss poor.
Basic,
really piss poor
stuff. I mean, essentially, unless I want to do Candy Crush until I'm, you know, fucking just sick and tired of it, then there's really nothing else to kind of play. And it really does grind my gears. That does. I mean, we can have a whole discussion about mobile gaming, but let's not go down that road, man, because that will get depressing real quick.
That way madness lies.
Exactly. So instead, man, as said, we've got Rob Wade with us, and Rob, is absolutely fantastic to have you on the show, man.
I'm pleased to be here. I've been ever since I discovered you guys, I've been listening as much as it's possible to do so within the confines of a busy life. So you know.
Yeah, I hear you, and likewise, you know, we've really enjoyed the show. I've really enjoyed the Crazy Train when I've checked that out. So
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll definitely recommend the Crazy Train show. It's like nothing you'll ever hear in a podcast.
I'm not sure if that's praise or.
Oh, it is. It is.
Oh, okay. Just because I've heard that sort of that. You know, awesome. No, you don't understand. I mean, it's awful. It's just... Thankfully, you guys aren't saying that, so that's nice.
No, not at all, man. Not at all, man. It's really good. So, for the benefit of our listeners and those that don't know much about sort of Emotionally 14 and how it came about, could you give like a brief sort of breakdown of how you got into podcasting and where the whole sort of Emotionally 14 concept came from?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, Emotionally 14 is quite old now. Obviously, emotionally it's still 14, but physically it's coming up on like a decade. Which is pretty ridiculous.
Oh wow!
To think about.
Jesus.
Yeah, this is it. Like we went through like we started off as just like a blog, just doing sort of fun think pieces, like silly top 5 lists and that sort of stuff, like the kind of stuff that you see on YouTube videos now. Like but before YouTube was as big as it is, and in fact we had a YouTube channel. So we've got a YouTube channel now, but we had a different one, and it was basically just film trailers we'd been sent by PR companies. We weren't creating any original content on YouTube, but we were doing lots of written stuff, and we were doing like fun takes on geek stuff, and we've kind of tried to keep that spirit the whole way through. So we went for like 4 years, and we were doing pretty well. And then a few of us had some personal issues, which had to take priority, like serious stuff. So we took a big break, and I'd always wanted to do a podcast. And part of the problem we faced was that I was living in Brighton at the time. That wasn't the problem, but obviously geography being what it is. Yeah. And the solutions for like remote podcasting weren't nearly as sophisticated as they are now. So we had to Skype with, I think it was like my laptop mic. I had my headphones on. I was talking into a microphone, and then I had another microphone pointed at the laptop to catch the sound from the other guy.
Oh, Jesus!
It's in like the elegant call recording. So we did one episode like that, and it was just an absolute ball ache to make it sound anything half decent. And even when I released it, people were nitpicking. I was like, "Oh, fuck you." Inside, obviously, I was polite. Underneath, I was seething. Like, it's just like, oh god, I wasted all this time. So we went quiet for a while, and then I moved back to Kent, where I'm from originally, and sort of reunited with all my friends. And one of the things I'd always been keen to do was a podcast, and part of the reason was because while I'd been away, the Ricky Gervais show had like exploded, so podcasting was the shit, and everybody was trying to get in on it, and I was really desperate to get in there sort of early. And we met up and we recorded episode 1 of The Crazy Train, which, I mean, to give you an idea of how far it's all come, we recorded the first episode, 4 of us gathered around a laptop speaking into the webcam mic.
Wow.
Jeez.
Madness. it's like I say, it's just mad to think about. And now, you know, like we've all got our own individual microphones, and I can run fucking software to make it sound half decent, and all that, you know, obviously I have to do edits to make it half decent as well, but I just, you know, since then it's been kind of it's been going well, but it's a little bit like stop start, so we've had problems with getting recordings together, and recently we've managed to hit a proper stride, so we've been able to actually get together, record regularly, like every other week or whatever. We're actually getting together, and it's really nice, you know. And obviously I've become involved with like Britpod scene and kind of dealing with other podcasts on the web, and this is where I found you guys, so you know, it's all worked out very nicely in that respect.
Yeah.
Oh, cool, nice.
Indeed. I mean, it's really kind of, I guess, heartening is the word I'm thinking of to hear your journey, because you know this is a road that you guys have been on for a long time.
Oh yes.
Just said. It's awesome to see that, you know, you've been able to still keep going in spite of all of the different kind of things you've had to overcome. You know, I mean, it's much the same for myself and Rich. We've had, you know, we still are very, you know, kind of making do and trying to piece bits together here and there where we can. And but it's that, you know, that kind of passion, and what's rewarding about it as well is realizing that there's other people out there who like the same shit you like and are willing to give up, you know, an hour and a half of their time to listen to you ramble about some shit. And you know, it's really kind of fulfilling to get that recognition and to get that validation for what you're doing. So you know, it's awesome to kind of, as said, to hear sort of how you guys have been able to keep this thing going in spite of you know, life getting in the way and all of that kind of shit as it does. You know, it's really, really dope to hear that, man. So yeah, as I said, kudos to you guys, man. It's been real fun to listen to your show, man.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You know, if I ever write a book, then I'll be sure to kind of give tips on like how to avoid some of the shit I ran into, so that people can, you know, I can make that time serve somebody else rather than me having to just deal with it in like bitterness forever.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I thought I thought you were gonna say that if you're gonna write a book, there's gonna be a chapter dedicated to us.
Oh, no,
fuck it. That's just narcissism kicking in. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I've been quiet for about 5 minutes, so like I had to say something, man. That's
the kind of effect I have. Is like, you know, people are always like, "Oh, how do you find stuff to talk about?" I was like, dude, the trick is shutting me the fuck up once I get going.
Yeah, Rich is a textbook narcissist. So
I am. Yeah. It's not even my fault. But seriously, like obviously, like you said, like listening to your story of like setting the podcast up and everything as well, is like it makes me happy. Like yesterday, we interviewed a friend of ours, and we spoke to him about, I think just before we started our podcast, and he started like, you know, putting his comic book together. And then it fell through. Then he was meant to come on our show and everything. Yeah. And it's literally taken him about 3 years to come on. And yesterday he was just telling us his journey. Yeah. And we were telling him our journey. And then it just makes me feel happy because you see people progressing. And obviously, like, you know, you come on and you're telling your story, and it's just people just doing what they enjoy doing and just fucking loving it. I'm not sure if you get paid for it, if you get paid well for it. I mean, we don't. But it's like shit, we broke.
I was coming on to Panhandle right now.
But it's just like just doing something that you love, and it's just like through all obstacles, you know, like it's fucking great, man. Like, you know, just it's happy to hear.
Yeah, no, it's great. The great thing about the internet at the moment is that the barrier to entry on all this stuff is so low that it doesn't matter what you want to do or what you want to talk about, you can do it really, really easily if you're sufficiently motivated to do so. and willing to stick with it. Like it's all it takes, literally, is just to be sufficiently motivated to keep it going, and that's a struggle.
And two girls and no, it is. You're right. No, you're right. And two girls and one cup. Like that's it. Like it's literally if you can do that, then you're laughing, man.
I mean, I know which one I'd go for, but this is just preference. So I'm not going to tell people how to do their, how to live their life and do their shit. Like your part of the expression.
Yeah. Jason, I'm just warning you. I think this episode of the podcast is going to be a bit wild. Like,
would you say could go as far as to say it's going to be crazy?
I think so.
Good stuff.
No, man. I mean, I hear you. I mean, we can definitely trade our fair share of war stories with you with regards to the podcast. I mean, I don't know why this just came to my head, but one funny story I will share with you, and those who've been listening to us from the beginning will probably recognize this. But Rich, remember when we had our certain guest on?
Jason, don't, man, because he might be listening, bruv. We saw him. No, this person that he's gonna talk about, we saw him a couple of months ago, and when somebody recognizes you, right? and you recognize him. Yeah. And he's just about to say something, but then in your face, you're just like, I didn't recognize you, but in my head, I recognized you. So I'm just going to give you a blank face, and you just carry on walking. And like he tries to talk to you, and you're just like, nope, and you just carry on walking. But then you realize that you're stuck in the same shop. Yeah, that's what happened. Like with this guy, and he came on the show, and now Jason, you're about to say this story. But he knows what we look like, man. What are you fucking around for, man? Like,
well, he doesn't know where we live, so we're all right.
Yeah. The thing about stories like that is like your brain decides, no, I better not interact with him. That would just be awkward.
Yeah.
And then your brain was like, so that was better. How?
I know. Tell me about it.
But Jay, tell the story. Go and tell the story. Might as well.
It was just. It was just, we had this person who reached out to us. This is back sort of in the early days, who was like, I'm a really big fan of what you do, and I'm a big fan of the same things you are. Can I come on? Can I come on the show? So I was like, yeah, cool, no problem. Like, and to be fair, this is where, as I said, this is the learning curve. I did like zero due diligence on this guy, like nothing. I didn't listen to anything.
Oh, this is good. This is going to be amazing.
So he was like, I really love like comic books, and I love Marvel, and I want to talk about Marvel movies and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, cool, no problem. Like, jump on, mate. So I sent him, an invitation to come onto the recording and so on and so forth. We were due to start the recording, and we hadn't like heard a word from him, and I'd messaged him and he wasn't responding. So I said to the guys, look, you know what, sod it, let's just go ahead and we'll just record anyway. And then because of the fact that I'd sent the invitation out to him already on Hangout, the invitation was still live. I forgot to cancel it.
Right.
So about 30 minutes or so into the podcast, suddenly, up this guy pops into the conversation, and he's like, hello. And I was like, okay, fucking hell, here we go. So I was like, hi, I take it, you found your way along. So he's like, yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. Just introduce yourself and, let everybody know who you are. So he does his introductions. And, at that point, we'd been talking about the trailer for The Mummy, because this is, the Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah.
The first trailer had come out. So we were kind of discussing, whether what we thought of the trailer, whether we thought it was worth a watch or not. Mm-hmm. And, he goes, oh, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this stuff. I'm sick of these movies that, that don't treat Egyptian history properly and da 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 da.
Oh.
And went into this big rant. So I was like, okay, well, let me see where he goes with this. So he was literally just kind of ranting about how it's, it's cultural appropriation, da 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 da. So I was kind of like, okay, like not what I expected, but all right, fair enough. Let's, if he wants to talk, let him say his piece, and we'll deal with it afterwards. And then he kind of changed pace and was like, oh, and I'm sick of all these women. I'm sick of all these women being in these movies now. I'm sick of all these women.
Right.
So I was like, what do you mean you're sick of all these women? Like,
Sick of women.
could
Like,
you,
Yeah,
yeah, could you
yeah.
just,
But he's going off on one now. Like he's entered that zone
yeah.
where his mouth is just running. I was like, what?
So I was like, elaborate a bit. Like, what do you mean by you're sort of women? I don't understand. It's like, well, these women are controlling, like they're controlling Hollywood and da 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 da. And I was like, oh shit, okay, I've managed to find a fucking crazy here. Like, how do I end this now? How do I end this? And he said something about the actress Sophia Botella, who plays the mummy in this version.
oh yeah. Okay.
And it's like, yeah, you see, they've gone and got some French woman and da, 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 to play the mummy. That's not right. And so Richard said, well, I don't know if you know, but Sophia Botella is Algerian. So she's actually from that part of the world. I mean, yeah, she grew up in France, but technically she is part. She does come from North Africa.
Yeah.
So then there's silence for a couple of seconds, and he goes, "Really?" So Richard's like, "Yeah," and he's like, "That's where I'm from."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, this guy's not even done any kind of research, anything. He's just come on and side chat. I'm like, no, he needs to go. He needs to go. So I let Rich talk for a little while, and then I was like, right, where do I terminate him? And I terminated his connection.
Yeah, because me and him started going back and forth.
Yeah, because
because he went on a rant. When he went on his rant, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This guy claims. Let's see. So I took my tablet. I just started researching in it. Yeah. So this guy's talking, and you guys know Charlie Brown and the Peanuts cartoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So my boy, I've got a 5-year-old boy. Like that's his favorite cartoon at this moment in time. The movie is actually a really good movie.
Okay.
But you know how when the adults talk and it just goes wah 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 wah.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember, but that's what this guy sounded like in my ear. And I was like, nah, he's just getting on my nerves. So let me just do some research. So I broke that piece. I broke his thing with like she's Algerian and whatever.
Yeah.
And he starts talking about the mummy shouldn't be a woman. It should be a man. And I was like, bro, what are you talking about? Like,
why does that matter?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't even matter.
Exactly. Like in Egypt, I swear, like anybody could be mummified. Like, what are you talking about? And then at that point, Jason, I think while me and him are going back and forth, and I think Jason managed to find like the button and basically let's put it this way. It was at this point that he knew he fucked up. Yeah. And then Jason found the off button, did it? And just cut himself off, man, and just cut him off in it. So
nice. That's a great story.
So that was a lesson for us in the podcast journey, where it's like, okay, you know what, maybe let's like try and have a conversation with people before we
get a little preamble in
something of what they do, or see something of what they do, so that we can say, okay, we'll be cool with this person being on.
Yeah,
it's going to be fine. Our listeners will appreciate it, and that's that. So yeah, we've as said, we've been through the wars as well. We've had our fair share of crazies on there. Do you guys have a lot of people that come on your show? A lot of people outside the group?
No, so there's like the pool of like podcast kind of regular guests has grown like steadily over the years, but it started off with like 4 of us, and then we expanded out to another 2, and then another guy, and there's like 7 of us. Realistically, it's like usually the similar 3 or 4 that turn up to most of them. A couple of the guys have got like new, relatively young kids, and so understandably they can have to drop out at the last minute and stuff, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
So it's been me and Blake, and then whoever can make it. So like I'm trying to be. I've had problems in the past with being a little bit like taking it very personally when they can't make it. So I'm trying to get better because. It's like it stresses you out unnecessarily. You're worrying about shit that you don't have to, because like you're taking it personally. Like, they're just coming around because they don't want to hang out. It's like, no, they got shit. Some people have got shit to do sometimes. It's okay. It's all right. That's quite normal. It turns out. I'm just abnormal. That's what it turns out to be. But I'm the one sitting there going like, well, I'll show them. I'll do some video editing. Oh God, what is my life?
So Rob, you've got the gaming channel, which the Gamecast, which I've been enjoying quite a bit as well. What's been kind of the biggest game that you've played so far that you've really enjoyed? And what have been the kind of games that you've really enjoyed doing on the Gamecast as well?
In terms of like stuff I've been playing recently, like new stuff or just generally?
Yeah, I guess new stuff and anything like kind of old school as well, because we're all of an age here, so
Yeah.
You are, not me. You.
Wow, that was fast. He's young,
you
man.
threw us under the bus there.
Oh, man. I get on that bus for free. Don't you dare ruin it for me. I mean, at the moment, the thing I'm probably playing the most is Skyrim on my Switch, which is keeping me pretty entertained. It's been it's probably been the right amount of time since the last time I played Skyrim. So I'm finding a lot of stuff that I've either forgotten about because, I mentioned just now that I'm old. And also there's like DLC that I'd never got to play and stuff like that. So I'm finding a lot of things that I'm coming to either for the first time or for it's been such a long time that I've forgotten it. So it's still pretty fresh for me. I've done like 130 hours now. It's just mental.
Oh, shit.
130 hours.
Yeah, and that's the second.
Fuck.
So I played it on the Xbox 360 for about that amount of time the first time I played it as well. So
yeah,
I'm about coming up to about 300 hours, I think, in total.
Wow.
Like I'm amazed it keeps my attention for that long. But it's either that. At the moment, it's either that FIFA or 2K, WWE 2K18 on my Switch. I don't know if you guys I don't know if you guys have followed that one, but it's badly in need of optimizing because it runs like an absolute dog.
Really?
Oh shit!
Yeah, it's really, really bad. It's like there was an article on Eurogamer the other day. Is WWE 2K18 the worst game on Switch?
Wow.
It's like the kind of conclusion that most people came to in the comments was like, well, no, but it is like probably the worst at the full price.
Right.
There's obviously going to be some like shitty indie games and stuff that get farmed out, like mobile ports and things like that. So that stuff's going to turn up. So but in terms of like full price games, 2K18's been kind of established as like one of the worst because it's just really, really bad, like performance wise. It's fun, like the gameplay is fun, but it runs on like such a bad delay that it's like watching it in slow motion in like a Royal Rumble. It just
fuck it up.
Yeah, it's just really, really locks up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's yeah. I mean, it's odd because I mean, Nintendo seem to do this every now and again with some of the ports of the AAA titles that come out on other formats. It seems sometimes when it goes to a Nintendo system that something just gets lost along the way. I mean, I remember having what did I play? It was Pro Evolution Soccer. I can't remember what version it was, but it was on the Nintendo Wii.
Yeah.
And they obviously kind of redesigned the game to make use of the specific control set for the Wii and things like that. But there was a lot that was lost along the way in terms of the gameplay, and it lagged really badly. And I remember people kind of really being quite annoyed at that and at how poor the port has been done. So it's an odd thing. I mean, they absolutely knock it out the park whenever it's something that it's is Nintendo sort of owned or a license that they own. But when it's kind of these other titles, it seems sometimes something seems to go wrong in the process there.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me, I thought was my impression is that WWE was rushed out to get out for Christmas. Because that was one that was like it went really quiet for the longest time, and then it was suddenly like it's coming out in 2 weeks. I'm like, that always gets me suspicious. When it goes from I'm not sure to next week, it's like, what the fuck? It's like, this is bizarre because that's not like I don't work in video games, but I work in the gaming sector, and that's not how it works. You get if you, especially a big project like that, you get an idea of when it's coming out, a fair bit before the week before, because you got to get it printed if nothing else. Like these things, you got to send it off to get it get all the
and shit that needs to get done.
Yeah,
as well.
Exactly. But now they didn't do the marketing, and now I understand why.
Right.
Because it would have been like shit if they played a trailer, it would have been god awful. Like I took a video to show my friend, and the running joke now is we're just like doing all the wrestler entrances in slow motion. Like, yeah. It sounds like the weird thing is, like, I don't know if you guys, Jay, you might be able to speak to this better than Rich, but do you remember Through the Keyhole?
Oh hell yeah, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
when we do slow down the phenomenal AJ Styles, we end up sounding like Lloyd Grossman. It's really,
Oh shit! Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
you know what? Sorry, Rob. You see, when I said that you guys are old, I'm actually probably one. I'm actually older than Jay, so I was just gassing. I was
oh,
just chatting shit.
fair
So
enough.
yes, I know through the keyhole in it.
All right, well, lesson learned. I can make through the,
The truth
if I
comes out at the end, mate.
yeah, it makes me a happy man. If I can make through the keyhole references, then I'm happy. That's the only one.
Oh bloody hell! That's wild. Like, who could live in a place like this?
Yeah, it's both the phenomenal AJ Styles.
Oh man, that's a bit of a fail, but that takes me nicely into the next question, really, because obviously based on what you've just said, you're a Nintendo Switch owner.
I am. I have all the consoles.
And we've talked about the Nintendo Switch a lot on the podcast here. So I guess the question to ask next is, have you been surprised at all at how successful the Nintendo Switch has been in terms of sales? Because it's been an absolute phenomenon in terms of, like, retail sales, particularly I think in North America. It's done superbly well. So has it kind of shocked you that Nintendo have been able to do that? Because I mean, I know at a point after the Wii U and how that kind of performed quite, sort of lackluster. There was some kind of doubts about, whether Nintendo really could produce another console that would capture the imagination again. But it seems like the Switch has done, as said, superbly well. So I mean, did it come as a surprise to you as a regular gamer?
I was surprised. I wasn't surprised that it was popular because Nintendo have this knack for capturing people's imagination with new releases. So like they really give you, they're really good at trailers and things like that, and they really give you a sense of what you can potentially do with that stuff.
Yeah,
And a lot of people when they watch trailers, myself included, I really appreciate that kind of that sort of allowing me to imagine the kind of the depths to which it can go. The depths, the steps, like how far they can take. How far can they take the tech? So I wasn't surprised that it was popular. I have been quite surprised by it. To what degree? It's already. I mean, it already outsold the Wii U's lifetime sales within like 9 months.
Wow,
that's madness. Like, I say I had no sense of that kind of being how far it would go. I really was quite shocked by that. So in that respect, I'm surprised. I'm not, like I say, I'm not surprised so much that it was successful because it's Nintendo. That seems to be something they tend to be able to pull out of the hat. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't seem to matter kind of what came before. It will, they come into everything almost with a clean slate.
Yeah.
And what's interesting actually about Nintendo is I think I remember reading somewhere that they only made a loss up until the end of the GameCube's lifespan. They only made a loss in like a single month in their entire history, whereas like a short period where they've been a company for like over 100 years. They started off making I think playing cards or something like that.
It was.
So they've been a company like that for so long, and it was only in like I have to double check that fact because now it sounds like ridiculous when I say it, but when they only really started to make a loss like for odd months of the GameCube and the Wii U's lifespan. Otherwise, they've always been well run in terms of profit, like operating profit. The profit might go up and down, but they're always, it's very rare that they run at a loss. They're usually pretty good at sort of keeping it tight at the financial level. Plus, like they seem to take it very like a lot of things to heart. So when they lose money, like the CEO will announce he's taking like a 30% pay cut or something because he feels responsible, which is fair enough. I mean, I probably wouldn't do it, but I'm also not the head of a major corporation. There are many steps in law to stop that from happening.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, it's Nintendo. They not only do they survive, they thrive. I mean, there was as said, many a time during the launch of the first ever Sony PlayStation and the PlayStation 2, and then the Microsoft Xbox and the 360, and the right up to sort of the PS4 and the Xbox One, and where people in some sections were kind of predicting the death of Nintendo. Like, this is the thing that's really going to kill them as a console manufacturer. Because they're not going to have the tech to keep up with Sony and Microsoft and the power to do it. And yet, time and time again, like the plucky underdog, they seem to always find a way to kind of continue to make themselves relevant with gaming audiences. And yeah, you've really got to hold your tip your hat off to them, I think.
For sure. Yeah, they've not, like I say, they're not stupid by any means. Clearly, the people who run it.
Absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah, I still need to. I'm like kind of fighting the urge to buy a Switch because I've got bills and shit. I need to
that's fair enough, man. I mean, literally the only reason I have one is because I commute. So for me, it's ideal.
Yeah. Because I have seen like a lot. I mean, Rich, I mentioned this to you on a previous pod, how many people I've seen on our commute now on the tube in London that you see just with a Switch, playing a Switch. Whereas before it used to be, people on their mobiles, and you still get that obviously. But I've been really surprised at the amount of people I've seen with a Switch on the tube just playing it, and they've really pulled off something quite impressive with
for sure
in terms of what they've done with that hardware. So yeah, really impressive stuff, man. Really impressive. But let's change pace a little bit and move on from video gaming, because I know, Rob, you do a lot of unboxings for games and card games and tabletop games and things like that as well. Now, I haven't really played tabletop games in years. I think the last time I played a tabletop game was maybe about 3 years ago when I went to like a gaming themed pub.
Okay, nice. Is it what's it called? I went to it recently. I went to one recently.
There's one called Loading Bar.
Okay.
There's one in Dalston, and I believe there's one of the same franchise, though not with the same name, that's in Stratford, in London.
Okay.
But yeah, they're two of the ones that are there, and I believe there's another one as well. I can't remember off the top of my head where it is. But where's the one you went to?
Haggerston. I've been trying to work out where it was while you were describing these ones, because I was wondering if it might be the same one. But no, the Haggerston is like a board game cafe, and I think it's one of the first like really famous ones.
Oh, okay.
We went there for my brother-in-law to be, his birthday. He wanted to go to like a D&D evening, so we went to that. It's pretty fun. Although we were with like it was a group of like 6 of us in total, and there were 3, me, my fiance, and her brother. And then 2 people together, and then 1 random dude who was clearly just there because he likes D&D. More power to him. But we were a little bit like, by the end we were a little bit annoyed because the couple who were there were clearly like shit faced. Just like, when there's like, for me, there's like a difference between when you don't take a game seriously and when you don't take a game seriously.
Yes,
obviously the idea is to have fun with your gaming, right? If you're not having fun with it, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
But when like the answer to every single thing is like, oh, I try and kill him. It's like, come on, like this isn't, this is not how this is supposed to be played. Like, don't try and kill literally every NPC in the fucking town, because like, how are we supposed to complete the mission, Dick? Like, have you thought that through? No, I don't think you fucking have.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I haven't really played much sort of tabletop games since my visit then. But what kind of stood out to me was the diversity of games that you get now. I mean, you mentioned sort of Dungeons and Dragons, which is still going strong to this day. But there was a game that a group of us played, which was based on the movie Aliens. Was awesome. I mean, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now, but it was really, really awesome. And what was quite striking to me was how busy this pub was. And it wasn't just people, going and having a drink after work. It was people actually getting down with the board games, and the tabletop games and the card games and things like that. And there seems to be, I mean, especially in sort of the last 5 years, a real kind of resurgence behind board games, and a way that they've kind of tapped into popular culture, and the way that popular culture in general is becoming quite a thing now. Board games have been able to kind of latch onto that as well. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts really as to what you think may be behind the kind of rise of these things, because as I said, D&D was basically the domain of the uber nerd, and now it's perfectly socially acceptable for people to go and play, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or even something as simple as Connect 4, But the point is, people are really kind of infused by tabletop gaming. So it was just to kind of get your thoughts really on what you think that is.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like a few things that I think happened in short succession that kind of led to this stuff. I mean, Brad, who's on the show, can probably speak to this a lot better than I can, because he's been like a tabletop gamer for decades, and he's never short of an opportunity to tell you. But he's so my feeling personally is that a couple of things happened one after the other. So obviously, Big Bang Theory was a big kind of sleeper hit when it came to TV, and took the world by storm in a way that, I would say a lot of sitcoms only dream of doing.
Yeah.
And what happened, I think, was a lot of people who watched that show, and I'm gonna I'm not to impugn like the motives of most people, but there were some basic bitches in there. And what I think happened is a lot of those people went, oh, in show they play board games. I like show. I want to look cool. I play board games too. And I think a decent chunk of people went and did that, and then a percentage of them stayed.
Yeah.
And it's like there will be people who are currently involved in that stuff who will, I have no doubt they will move on. There will be a point where it's no longer trendy, and there'll be some new thing that doesn't take over, but kind of becomes the thing in focus. And then some of those people, a percentage of them will switch over and just move on to that. I think a decent portion of them will stick around. And I think the reason is because a lot of people have finally realized that this stuff is fun, and it's not just, it doesn't have to be like sweaty nerds kind of sat in a basement. I mean, you can do that if you want, and again, more power to you, whatever, as long as you're not hurting anyone, do you. But I think that's part of it, is like the swell that's kind of come from places where you wouldn't have necessarily expected people to enjoy this stuff, and it's because they've kind of come into it and gone, oh shit, this is fun, and stuck around and actually stuck with it. And there'll be a point where, like I said, this stuff comes out of fashion, because there's always a point where all this stuff happens. That's inevitable. But I think a decent percentage of people will stick around at least for a while, and I think that it's only going to get bigger and bigger, to be honest. Because I think now also there's also this thing. So this is the other thing I'm kind of touching on. I've mentioned it. I'm on a podcast called Talk Star Wars as well. Like, basically, I'm fucking everywhere. There's no getting rid of me. And one of the things we talked about, and I suggested that there's like a demographic of every fan base that I liken to sort of modern WWE audiences.
Yeah.
In the sense that they're the ones who openly reject the business's attempts to make the new heroes for the kids. So like they enjoyed John Cena when he was like making fun of people and he was allowed to say more stuff, and then it went PG and suddenly like he can't say as much stuff, and they started to resent John Cena because he's the one who's in front of them every week. So then John Cena is no longer the guy, so now they start to kind of warm to him a bit, and now they boo Roman Reigns all the time because he's clearly the one that the business wants to make the new hero for the kids once John Cena's no longer around. So there's a section of fans that have refused to accept, and I think it comes from a good place. I think it's just a sort of unwillingness to grow up, and we've all got that to a degree. But there's a section of the fan base that's unwilling to accept that at some point in history something stopped being made for them and them alone. and it happens in Star Wars. It's like, you know, there's this big, obviously, like Last Jedi was this big divisive movie over Christmas, and I'm sure it ruined friendships and all sorts of shit like that. And I think what's happening is, like, the fandom who kind of grew up on this stuff has stuck around because, you know, why would you not? And they've, you know, sunk their money into these properties over the years and made them and helped them grow. And then the companies have understandably gone, okay, well, this isn't like this shouldn't be a sustainable long-term growth strategy. If we want to keep making money and keep making stuff and survive as a company, we need to also have a younger fan base kind of working their way into it. So they carry on making stuff that appeals to the youth, as they do. You know, like George Lucas has never been big on, you know, denying that Star Wars was made for 12-year-olds. And, you know, the sort of older fans, most people, I think, get it. The really vocal minority don't. They just don't. They can't compute that something wasn't made for them, because if one thing the internet has done, and we joked about it earlier, is it's made everybody into a narcissist. Because if you believe you're amazing, there's enough people on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and I'm on all those platforms, so I'm aware I'm a hypocrite. There's enough people on all those platforms going to tell you you're fucking amazing, and there's not going to be anything that's going to do to change your mind after that, because some stranger in, you know, maybe not even a stranger, maybe a friend halfway across the world told you you're fucking great. Like, how cool is that? So there's this kind of, you know, there's this you're backed up by this stuff. You're reinforced. So when you go, you know, when Star Wars says, oh, we're gonna come up with a new batch of heroes to sort of, you know, to be heroes for the younger generation, some of the older fans go, no, fuck you, you haven't finished making my heroes. It's like, no, we kind of have, like, because eventually, as we've seen, unfortunately, these actors don't last forever. So, you know, we have to move on. And they're like, no, I don't want to move on, because then I have to accept that I'm an adult, and that comes with responsibilities and shit. And, you know, we joke about life getting in the way of fun, but the reality is we handle our shit, and most people do. But, like, there's a small group who just don't want to accept that, like, their childhood is finished, like this permanent state of arrested development. And it's just going to carry on like that, I think. And it's getting, if anything, it's getting worse. Like, the dialogue is like super toxic on the internet about a lot of these fandom properties. And, you know, I mean, to be honest, I think outlets like you guys, and, you know, I try and do the same thing with the stuff I do. We have to be the better example. Like, we have to have we've got the platform to have these big nuanced discussions about how how things should be handled, like how we interact with each other and how we deal with each other. And I think we've got the best opportunity of anybody in the world to try and to affect change in how we discuss things. And I think that's like the best kind of, it's the best and the worst thing, because we've got all the responsibility, but at the same time that also gives us all the cards to play. Yeah, that's what we need to, like, stick with, and that's what we need to stick to our guns. And if I ever run for political office, and, like, again, there are systems in place to stop that from happening, but if I ever do, then you can bet that I'm going to be asking for a copy of this, because this is like the best manifesto I'll ever get.
Yeah, you just went super serious, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
super serious.
I was sitting down just like fuck, this guy needs, like, yeah, we need to get him something. Like, we need to get you something for coming on the show to get and doing that, man. Fuck.
Oh, guys, being on the show is enough of a gift. Like, don't you worry about it.
No, man, I mean, yeah, I hear you 100%. I mean, it's something that we've discussed a lot on our podcast. Is kind of, you know, the impact that the rise of sort of popular culture and geek culture, I guess, and how with, you know, the way technology has changed and the way that we interact with each other has changed, how the conversation around these things can sometimes become very toxic very quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, there seems to be a real inability from people to kind of pull back for a minute and look at, you know, the bigger picture with regards to these things in the way that you've actually outlined, you know, quite eloquently. People don't seem to be able to do that anymore, which is an odd thing, really. But Rich, sorry, you were going to say something, weren't you?
I don't think I was. I was just going to say that, yeah. No, I wasn't. I was just agreeing with what you guys are saying. Like, I think I've actually got nothing to add to that. Like, you guys have just pretty much banged the nail on the head, to be honest.
Boom.
Yeah, mic drop.
Oh, are you kidding? It's just expensive.
But yeah, no, but insane. Yeah, like it's scary some of the stuff that I see online, that people write. Like it's and I mean not even scared as like, oh, like I'm scared, but just scared about some of the stuff that some of the stuff that comes out of people's mouths.
Yeah,
like, that's like I was watching The Breakfast Club is a radio show in the States.
Oh, okay.
And they were interviewing a comedian called Sinbad.
Oh, yeah,
you know Sinbad, and
Yeah.
he said something like really, really funny, which was just like, listen, and he's old school, you know, so, and he's a bit like Michael Rappaport at this moment in time. Like Michael Rappaport has had this renaissance in his career through social media, specifically Instagram right now, and he's just like, listen, we're fucking all grown adults here. Like, if you've got something to say, whether it's bad, whether it's good, but especially if it's bad, then just say it and own your shit.
Yeah.
Don't come and say your stuff and I click on your page and you've got like a private page and there's a picture of like a frog or something like that. I ain't got time for you fucking keyboard warriors. If you want beef, bring beef.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like you're saying, like some of the stuff that comes out of these people's mouths, whether it be about race, gender, or just not being allowed to like a specific, franchise because you weren't there from the beginning. It's some fucking Nazi shit, man. Like
it's mad. Like some of the stuff, like you say, the fact that people can get so protective over some of this shit that, like, let's be fair, in these media properties, they have no, they put some money towards it, but they're talking like drops in the bucket and like pebbles in the ocean in terms of how much of the money has come from their pocket, but they act like they're on the fucking board. Like,
yeah.
As I said, if you have enough people like telling you you're right, and this is one of the downsides of like the internet. I mean, it's wonderful in the sense that everybody can be connected. Like we can have a conversation right now about this stuff. The fact that we can do that is awesome, right? This wouldn't have been possible 10 years ago. It's like I say, I can fucking attest to this. Like, pointing fucking microphones at laptop speakers, like you can hear my pain in my voice as I describe it. God. But these things weren't, it just wasn't possible to whip up this much kind of a frenzy over the web 10 years ago. Like it just wasn't. Like it's crazy to think that we've come so far in technology that those things can feel like a lifetime ago. These mechanisms, but how. You could, if it was like we talked about this once on the Crazy Train actually, because we had a lot of discussions about like we made a lot of missteps when we first started about like making jokes that we didn't have the trust there to like for people to be able to say, oh no, they're kidding, they're not serious. Like, and if you go back to listen to some of those shows, like they are, they toe the line of what is acceptable, and sometimes they probably stick a foot across. But we kind of owned it, and I'm always very keen to leave those things there for people to hear, because it's I think it's important to not to try and sort of hide this stuff. If you said something that you're happy to put out there to potentially anybody in the world, then you should be prepared to own it, and be prepared to acknowledge it forever, even if you don't agree with it anymore. It's like it's just that's just basic to me. But we made a lot of those missteps in the past. It's like, so I understand kind of how these things can build up, but like, we could have been it would have been very unfortunate if we had not been, if we'd not been lucky, if we'd caught like at the same time, if we'd caught kind of the wrong side of some of these like keyboard warrior, Offendertron, everything upsets me kind of pussies.
Yeah.
If we'd fallen afoul of some of them, I can imagine it would have been, if nothing else, it would have been annoying. I don't know about like how bad it would have been, but it would have been irritating for damn sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean 100%. I mean, we have a friend who is one of the few women who owns a comic book store in the UK.
Okay.
And she had a really bad experience with YouTube. Surprise, surprise. I mean, like, if you
really,
wow. But
yeah,
there are some very unsavory characters on YouTube comment section.
Yeah.
But, you know, this was around the time that the Ghostbusters reboot had come out. So
Oh man.
they'd done the, you know, the trailer, and the first trailer had sort of come out, and
Yeah.
people were kind of like, "Oh dear, this doesn't look too good."
No.
You know, and most of the kind of, you know, emotionally intelligent people were sort of like, okay, this isn't really looking like a movie that's going to appeal to me, and sort of were leaving it
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, as you probably are well aware, there was this hardcore element that were absolutely, you know, diametrically opposed to this film on
Yeah.
every level.
Oh yes.
And were determined to ensure that it crashed and burned.
Yeah.
So this friend of ours, had recorded a video on YouTube
Mhm.
explaining why she was looking forward to it.
Okay.
And it was a very sort of personal thing. You know, she was
Yeah.
kind of talking about the fact that, you know, as a woman, she didn't feel that there were many, you know, heroes for her to kind of aspire to. And, you know, that by having a big budget movie like this with 4 women as leads was going to, you know, encourage young girls to get into the genre, and to get into, you know, kind of sci-fi and things like that. And,
Yeah.
you know, only good things usually come from that when you're able to draw in new people
Mhm.
that way. So, you know, and it was quite a passionate video. You know, she got quite passionate at certain points. Now, you know, all of us here are not necessarily fans of the movie to varying degrees.
Yeah. No, that seems fair to say.
But which is, you know, which is fair enough. But the point was that, you know, she was just expressing her opinion about the movie,
subjective opinion. It's like
her subjective opinion of what it meant to her.
super harmless. Yeah.
And you know, I said to her, look, can we kind of, is it okay if I kind of link your video to an article that I'm writing on the blog? Because I'd written, you know, this piece basically just saying, like, everybody calm the fuck down. Like, yeah, you know, it's just a Ghostbusters movie. We don't need to have World War III over this.
No.
So I did that, and literally the next day she messaged me and she was like, did you post the video up? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to take it down. And I was like,
Oh
right.
shit. Okay.
And she was like, literally, like, my comment section on YouTube has just been flooded with trolls, basically people who were being quite personal about her appearance.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, like, oh, you're just a, you know, you're just a fucking SJW, and which is like, that term in itself. Like, I don't understand how that term is a negative, because to me, I'm old school, and to me, social justice warriors are Gandhi and Martin Luther King and people like that.
And Wolfie Smith. Don't forget Wolfie Smith as well.
Yeah. I think the disconnect is like, you're absolutely right. Those were actual warriors for social justice. I think what it started off as, like, because I spend a lot of time I'm quite interested in this stuff, especially like the pop culture wars, as it were. The social justice warrior thing started off as like to highlight the discrepancy between the people's perception of themselves and the reality. And it's like, you know, they thought they were like, you know, people thinking they were like Martin Luther King, when actually all they're doing is going onto their Twitter with 86 followers and whinging about something and demanding it gets taken down because they don't enjoy it. It's like it started off as kind of a mockery thing, I guess, is the best way to describe it. So I'm kind of fascinated by this stuff. So I've been like all sorts of, you know, I've spent a lot of time in comment threads for my sins.
I hear you, man. But yeah, you know, the situation for her just escalated wildly to the point that I don't even feel comfortable with it anymore. I'm just going to delete the whole video.
Yeah.
And you know, about 24 hours later, I was watching a video with a YouTube film critic, a guy called John Campia from the States.
Okay.
And he had done a trailer review for the movie, and he kind of pointed out, you know, as is usually his way, he pointed out things that he was positive about and things that he felt didn't work for him.
Yeah.
And then he said, you know, like literally 24 hours later, his video had got like thousands of downvotes. You know, the comment section was flooded with things, and he was like, you know, where the hell did this come from? Like, you know,
Yeah.
I've spoken about, you know, some of the most controversial movies you can think of, and have not got a response like this. Why is this happening? So he reached out to a friend of his who works for YouTube and said to them, look, can you have a look at you know, at what's going on with these numbers for me?
Mhm.
So they came back to him and they said, yeah, we think you're going to want to have a look at this. And they sent him a link to 4chan. And
Right.
in 4chan, there had been this group created that was going to, with the express purpose of basically download, voting, and trolling anybody who had anything positive to say about Ghostbusters.
Oh, wow.
And he posted up screenshots of it, and it was literally, you could see in the you know, in the conversation threads, they were sort of like, oh, this person's just posted a video here, and then they put up a link. And then
Damn.
they say, okay, let's all go here and flood it, yeah, and we'll do the same thing that we do. And I looked at it and I was like, really, you've got that much time on your hands? to do
That's it,
that?
man. That's what
You know,
that's what
like,
impresses me about it. It's like,
right.
who has this, doesn't have shit to do? Like,
Yeah, like, I mean, I know we joke that we all ain't got shit to do, but still, man, there's life, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you
day
there's a
jobs and
whole
stuff.
world outside your window, man. Like, you know,
well,
I
this, you know,
don't-
maybe not.
yeah, well, in their case, yeah. But it just, I was just like, wow, I don't. Is this kind of what fandom has descended into? You know, where people want to shit on other people's fandoms because you know, I don't like it, so therefore fuck you. And it's like, you know, it's just crazy. I mean, like I've you know, as Rich knows very well, I'm you know, I hate with a passion the Transformers movies.
Okay.
Partly because you know, I'm like a G1 fan, and G1
Okay.
died. You know, that was like a pivotal moment in my childhood, was when I discovered, you know, the Transformers animated series.
Yeah.
And so it's very dear to my heart. So what they've done with the movies is just like so far removed from what I know that I'm like, oh, I can't take this. I mean, I went to watch the last one in the cinema because I suppose I'm a masochist. But you know, yeah, it really just disturbs me. And I've said it in, you know, in different reviews and different things that we've talked about on the podcast about them, about how much I dislike them. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I've always kind of acknowledged that, you know, as much as I hated it, I mean, there was the Age of Extinction, I think it was Transformers Age of Extinction, that made $1 billion worldwide.
Sure.
So clearly, you know, there's a lot of people out there who don't feel the same way I do, because they've gone and taken their money and spent it to go and watch the movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, I kind of had to sort of check myself in a way and say, well, you know what? As much as I have these feelings about it, at the end of the day, if these people like it, and you know, they're not doing any harm to anyone, then you know, what the hell? I just
Yeah.
walk away from it. You know, it's not every battle you have to fight. As
It's hard. It is hard though. Like, you do find yourself, you know, you see yourself reading a trailer and like reading the trailer. What the fuck? Watching a trailer, and then you read the comments and people are like, oh, I'm excited for this, and you're just like, what is wrong with you? But then you have to like bite down and be like, no, it's subjective, it's art. You just have to accept that they've got weird tastes, you know, to you, and that's okay, and that's fine, and they can, you know, as long as I've got like no issue with stuff existing that I'm not interested in, as long as I can still get access to the stuff that I want to watch. As long as there's movies that are, you know, are not made for me specifically, but are made to appeal to people like me, then I'm gonna find something to enjoy. It's like, you know, if you go out for like dinner, you know, if you go to a restaurant menu and you sit and you expect everything on every single item on the menu to cater for you, you're a fucking lunatic. Or you're basically in somewhere with like 3 items on the menu, which fair enough.
Yeah, no, exactly. It you know, it makes no sense to me at all. And you know, it goes back to kind of what you were saying about sort of Star Wars and the Last Jedi and things like that, and how that was received. And you know, it just to me, it's crazy, because the thing is, there's so much content nowadays.
Oh, totally.
So much content.
We've never in our history had it so good as nerds. It's just not. There's no comparison whatsoever.
No,
madness.
I mean, Rich can tell you many a story about you know, sort of how we how our friendship kind of sparked up, and sort of the, you know, the early days when we'd go to, you know, the local comic book store around the corner from our college, and you know, he'd pick up a few comics, I might pick up something now and again, and you kind of almost felt. I mean, Rich, I know didn't, but I kind of almost felt a bit like, oh, this is a bit dirty and seedy, isn't it? I'm going into a comic book store to buy comics, you know. And it just felt like a bit, you know, very niche. But now, you know, with there's just, as he said, so much stuff, and we can digest it in so many ways that if something doesn't agree with you fundamentally, to you know, for whatever reason, it is okay to just go, you know what, that ain't for me, and just walk away and go, but maybe this thing over here is
more, let's see if I can find someone else. Yeah,
get that, you know, and just move on. It doesn't have to be a war, but
it's like you know, it's team sports now. That's what it is. Basically, it's become like everybody's got their side.
Yes,
and it happens in like you know, it happens in that kind of political arena. It happens in films. Like, I mean, everybody's like, you're either Team Marvel or you're Team DC. You can't just think both are fine. You have to pick. You know, it's like you have to take loyalty tests and recite panels back to people. It's like crazy, like how invested. Let's say it's simultaneously awesome and terrifying how invested people can get in these properties.
Well, the thing is, I think that's even more terrifying. This is me just having a bit of a brain fart. Like you said, it was almost like a war, like you're either on one side or the other.
Yeah,
it's just kind of scary, like how quick people are prepared. Well, you know what? Not so much now because it's digital, but how quick people are prepared to shed blood, not literally, but blood for something that they have this passion for. And it just reminded me of like there's a bit in like this is me geeking out a bit, Sherlock Holmes 2, where he has this whole thing where Moriarty is trying to kickstart, I think, World War One.
Yeah,
and then basically there's this conversation between Holmes and Moriarty, and Holmes is basically saying like, well, I don't think you're right. I think basically, you know, if I can prevent this, then, you know, we'll obviously move on to the next part, and we can still be a great people. Yeah. And obviously he's wrong, because I think World War One eventually ends up happening, I think, like a couple of years later. And then obviously you always read all this literature and you see it in the films and you see it on TV. And it's always that, you know, when aliens come down to invade, and one of our friends who we interviewed yesterday, who did like the one-page comic book, and there's a story called Invaders. And it's got a bit of a twist at the end. And it's almost like we're just built to fucking break stuff and to just harm people.
Yeah.
No, but it's true. Like, I just feel really down and upset now, like after this conversation that you guys have just had. Like, and it's just that thing, is like, but it comes from, it starts off coming from a good place where it's like, yeah, well, I like this. Yeah, I love this. I have this passion for this. I don't want to share this with you. You're a fuckface because you like this now, and now I'm going to try and destroy your life. And it's just like, where did this come from? This escalated quickly.
I'm going to get you fired because you gave Last Jedi a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it's like, what? Like 7 out of 10, it easily just deserved a 6. But like, fucking hell,
exactly. Yeah, what's wrong with you, you lunatic, you bastard?
but then like, and that's the thing that's just really upsetting, and it's weird when you're saying about how you've seen it progress from, like, you know, for how long you've been doing the podcast.
Yeah,
because me and Jason remember going to one of the first Comic Cons.
Yeah,
and just being like, you know, just we were like, just kind of stood out, just being like maybe like the only black guys there.
Okay, and
then people not wanting to talk to us. And then basically we've seen, so now we've seen like this world expand. And as this geek world has expanded, it's almost like it's contracting at the same time, with like the amount of just like badness and like small mindedness that's happening. It's just the weirdest thing. But but when you guys just bring it up, it just makes me just want to slit my wrists, man.
That's the spirit. Well, let's see if we can bring that subject back up. The thing to keep in mind is, like I said, we are in the best position possible to have good discussions about this stuff. I mean, you guys are named for it. Like, we have this platform, and we can be the example of how the world should be. We can put the world to rights in that respect. So, you know, don't take it like personally. These people, it's like some people just want to watch the world burn, and you're never going to reach those people. The best you can do is, like I said, you can set the example of how you think discussion about film and, you know, comics and music and games, and let's be fair, stuff that in the grand scheme of things is awesome but doesn't matter. Like, it's these things, you know, this is what another thing that like people have got such like it's like wearing a sports jersey. I mean, fuck, I saw a tweet today and it made me crack up laughing because it's so true. Somebody wrote probably the most interesting thing about me is that I don't tie my identity to a Harry Potter house. It's like, I mean, for a start, read another fucking book. There's so many, like, and it's not even to say like they're not good books, because they're perfectly fine. Like, but it's just like, Jesus Christ, not everything has to be a Harry Potter reference. I used to have a mate when I was at uni who compared everything to the Matrix. It drove me up the fucking wall then, and it drives me up the fucking wall now.
Yeah.
But that's like, yeah, but I was talking about positivity, wasn't I? Shit. But the like I say, the reality is that we have the power. We have the power in our hands right now, and anytime, and anybody listening now has exactly this kind of power. You can have the discussions you want to have, and you can show the world how it's supposed to be using platforms that are available to you. And it's never been easier to have a platform for this stuff. True. As long as you're not a dick about it, you can get away with a lot. Like, I'm living proof.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's what I say. We need more positivity around all of our fandoms right now.
Yeah.
And, it could, because when people are positive about it, there's tremendous things that come out of it,
Yeah, for sure.
It's my friendship with Richard is owed to basically to comic books. That's where we kind of made our initial connection. I mean, Richard's told the story many times about how we first met, which is kind of funny. And but it's the power that this fandom has, and the power that pop culture has to bring people together. We've got people who we speak to quite regularly from different parts of the world who came to us because of their fandom and because they're passionate about something, and that leads to then learning more about them as a person, and then suddenly the next thing you know, you're like, wow, you're actually like a cool human being, and you're someone that I'd really like to kind of spend some time with. And I think at its best, that's what our thing can do. It has this ability to make people connect, and people sometimes who wouldn't perhaps under other circumstances may just pass each other by because of this thing exists. It means that these people can make connections, and beautiful things come of it. So
no, it's true. It's very true. I mean, I wouldn't, if you told me that even say 3 years ago that by the time this conversation happened on this day, I would have performed a cross-continental rap battle with a guy on a different Star Wars podcast in Canada where we referenced Lord of the Rings and everybody loved it, I would say you're a lunatic. But that's the world in which we live now. It's just it's a crazy, exciting, vibrant world, and the solution is the solution to these problems of like tribalism, which is kind of what it boils down to. And like you touched on it, Jay, when you were talking about it, people who invest in these properties, like, but the downside is basically that when you invest so heavily, because I don't know, for various reasons, maybe it's like one of your few outlets in life, or maybe you take it super seriously because you've got like a bad home life or whatever. For whatever reason, you get involved in it. Like, you end up taking it personally when people don't like it, because like, but that's that's my favorite thing in the world. How can somebody dislike it? Like, they must be deficient. They must be Hitler. Like, that's the only solution they can come to in their heads. Because, like I say, read another fucking book. But it's that's kind of the downside of it. Almost, is like everybody wears their heart on their sleeve about this stuff. But I forgot my original fucking point. Went off into the weeds. This going off into the weeds thing only works so many times for me, and then it's just like the brain is just like, no, you can't have this one. Fuck off.
He goes like, no, you're talking too much sense. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah, no, but absolutely, man. So if there's anything to take away from that, listeners, is that show each other a little love, man. Come on, like, that
was it. Yeah, I've got it. It came back to me. So what I was going to say is, when it comes to discussing this stuff, the solution is not to speak to people less; it's to speak to people as much as you possibly can and engage with them like respectfully. Be good. Like, don't be dicks.
Yeah,
I'd get on a t-shirt maybe.
Yeah, it's real easy.
Yeah.
You know? It's real easy.
You'd think, and yet it seems to be increasingly hard. But
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this thing is going to play out. But you know, I'm generally an optimist in nature, so I prefer to, you know, believe that whilst we still have hope that positive things can come, and whilst we, you know, I continue to see evidence of positivity around it, then you know, there's always hope for the future. So for me, that's kind of how I see it, really. So yeah, hopefully we'll get there one day, geeks. We'll get there one day.
yeah, man, just endure.
Exactly. But yeah, let's talk something a little bit more fun. What's your sort of earliest memory of a tabletop game that you've played, Rob?
Let me think. So, I mean, I'm guessing we're excluding like Monopoly and Risk and
yeah, I mean, it's excluding sort of, I guess, you know, the Connect Four, Monopoly, and Scrabble, which I was forced to play by my mother, and I still don't forgive her for it.
what was her reasoning behind it?
She insisted it was going to improve my vocabulary, and I was like, I don't care. Like, this is not fun. Like,
Yeah,
I've
I'll read the goddamn book, all right?
other houses get to play Guess Who, and I'm sitting here trying to like make teal out of like several letters. And
Yeah.
oh.
You know what, Mum? They're detectives now because of that shit. Right? They were set up from like day one. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. So, like, I came into tabletop in terms of like the stuff we associate with proper tabletop. Listen to what dick I sound. I was just talking about like, you know, keep everything like respectful. Now I'm just like dismissing these massively popular board games. But like in terms of the kind of more American centric, like what's called like Ameritrash gaming. I mainly got into it through my friend Brad. So Brad is one of the sort of, he's been on about half of the Crazy Trains, like, you know, relatively recurring guest. So he and I met, man, it's like 13 years ago this year, because I used to do stand-up comedy and he used to run a club. So when I like, yeah, it's a long story, maybe best save for another episode, or like, you know, maybe like I say, when I finally write that book, you know, I met Brad through that, and then after did a few shows, and we were sort of getting along well, and you know, he said like, you know, you should come around and hang out and play games, and I think one of the first things we did was play like an evening, like a one-shot RPG campaign from a game called Call of Cthulhu, which is basically like horror themed D&D.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's D&D style mechanics, but in like a sort of like late 19th, like late 19th, early 20th century Massachusetts. So it's all like Lovecraft era stuff. So, you know, and it's all about kind of crazy shit and warping reality and what's real and what's not and so on. You know, cheerful things. We're talking about keeping the tone light. So why not talk about stuff that sends you fucking mad? But that was like the first one that sticks in my head because it was just such an enjoyable time. Because I'm very much one of those people who likes the narrative games, like the ones with, you know, strong story. And, you know, it's not to say I can't enjoy a game where you just smack each other with dice, not literally, but you know, you use dice for your two characters to beat the piss out of each other with dice for an hour and a half. Like, that's fine too. But I'm always the ones that are going to stick in my head are the ones with strong stories or like particularly good sessions of a particular game. So, you know, RPGs have always kind of appealed to me in that respect. I'm fucking crap at them because I roll dice like an absolute moron. So, you know, I'm never like the player who sort of deals the killing blow or anything like that. But I do tend to. I am also here. You know, that's my role. I'm here too. So like my earliest memory is kind of like tabletop RPGs, and we started playing some stuff regularly. A lot of the stuff Brad's gone to like great expense to get hold of. Like he has the 1980s leading edge Aliens board game, which is like super hard to get hold of. Went to great expense to get it, and that's always good fun. But it's just, you know, we play a pretty broad kind of spectrum of stuff around like sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. What we call the sort of the geek triumvirate. What about you guys? I mean, are you big tabletop players?
Not hugely these days, but I remember one of my favorites was you probably remember this, Rob, and I know Richard remembers it definitely. Was Hero Quest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Hero Quest I really loved because it was a period when I just started to read Conan the Barbarian comics.
Okay, nice.
My granddad was a big comic book collector, and one of the last things he gave me for the one and only time that I saw him before he passed away was a big pile of his comics that he'd collected. So he sort of collected like Suicide Squad,
nice,
X-Men, and he collected Conan the Barbarian. And I really got into Conan the Barbarian. Maybe it was because of all the gratuitous topless shots and things like that in there. I don't know, but you know, I really got into the comics, and so then I started to pick up the original novels by Robert Howard, and then you know, Hero Quest the game. I remember the commercial coming on TV and going like, "Oh my god, I need to get this game." Yeah. And I managed to convince my mum that there was educational benefit to the game.
Man,
playing it. I still don't know how I managed to convince her, but I did. So she, you know, bless her, she went out and she bought it for me, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the fantasy elements that it brought to the table, and at the same time as well, I was kind of getting into the original Golden Axe game as well. So it all kind of tied in, you know, with that. And yeah, Hero Quest for me was really like the game that I just adored, man. I really did. And it's one that even now I would probably still play if I knew somewhere where somebody had had one. I'd definitely indulge in that.
Nice.
Yeah. Richie, how about you, man? Was there any sort of tabletop games you played?
Listen, I've only ever played one tabletop game. That's it. So maybe in this podcast is a bit of an anomaly. But nah, because you know, I'm not ever gonna front. Like, you guys are saying tabletop game, and I kept quiet, and I was like, are they talking about like games that you used proper control sticks, like, you know, like the joystick? But I said, no, let me not say anything just because of that. So listen, I've only ever played one tabletop game, and it was, just by chance it was Hero Quest as well, right?
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so I said, here the joke. So the same thing. So I had to speech my mum to get to, you know, to get the board game. And I remember my dad being mad. I don't know, my dad. Listen, I mean, bless his soul, he's passed away now. But I'm thinking back to myself, like, there are certain times I was a good kid and I'd ask my mum for something, and my dad would say no, and they'd be like, "Wow, are you just here just to make my life headache?" But anyway, I was like, damn, like let me live, man. Transformers, like let me live, like you know, I go to school, I color my books in. What the fuck? So I managed to get my mum to get me Hero Quest, and I kid you not, like I said earlier on about Final Fantasy. Me and my friends, we played it for a little while, but then we realized how much reading you had to do and the rules. I was like, fuck this. I thought you just get a dice and you chuck it, and that's it. You go about your business. You have to have a dungeon master, and then you can, and then you have point systems, and you have to write stuff down. After about 2 weeks, I said, fuck it. You know what? I'm just going back outside to play. I'm not going to use the term. I'm going to go outside there and play white people games. I'm going to play white boy games. So I'm going to break it down for you so I don't sound too racist. So I come from an African house. I come from an African household, right?
Okay.
So there are certain games I was not allowed to play because it was deemed. I mean, from a specific generation. You know, you're going to go and play with like Tom or Dave, and they're going to go and climb trees, and they're going to rip their trousers.
Yeah.
And they're going to go home. And that's going to be it. But you're going to come home and, you know, you're going to have ripping your trousers and you're going to get told off. I like playing those games. I like doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
So when I saw how much reading and writing I had to do for a game that I thought was going to be fun, I said, fuck it. Let me go outside and go play with Tom and Dave. Yeah. Rip my trousers, come home and get whooped. That sounds more fun than fucking writing and throwing dice. So that's how I spent my summer. I was like, F it. Nah, forget it, man.
Yeah, it's like, do you want to stay in and have fun? Nope, not interested. I'll be back later for my ass whooping.
Exactly, it's simple as that. So literally the only game I've ever played, or tabletop game I've ever played, is Hero Quest. Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, in hindsight, it maybe is something that I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah,
but I just don't have I have sometimes I have attention problems, like keeping focused on one thing, and I just think it's just one of those games that I just can't handle, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
But I'd love to be able to. Yeah.
Well, if we can make it to Haggerston, maybe we can do some sort of game night at the board game cafe and just make an evening of it.
Okay. Well, Haggerston's not too far, so me and Jason will take you up on that. But then after the game, we go outside and we climb trees and look for someone to give us an ass whooping.
Afterwards, we're just going to take you outside for an ass whooping.
yeah, man.
I think I washed my hair.
Yeah. Why not? Really the whole childhood experience, man.
Yeah.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, yeah, Rob. I mean, as I said, thanks a lot for coming on, man. It's
my pleasure, man. This has been a joy, man. I knew I was going to have fun, but shit.
Yeah. No, it's been a proper laugh, and this is what we love to do with the podcast, and the listeners who listen to us regularly know, this is what we're about, man. We just want to, chat shit and have fun and relive our childhoods to a certain extent, and forget that we're adults with adult responsibilities.
We are kindred spirits in that respect. I suspect, guys, because that is my entire ethos with Emotionally 14. The clue's in the name, ultimately, but that's the whole mentality. Is like, there's no reason why getting old has to be a bad thing, because you still have all these wonderful memories of all this cool shit you did. And that's what we celebrate. It's like we look back fondly on old video games, even if they were, in hindsight, they were kind of shit. And I've played some fucking dogs in my time, I can tell you. And maybe I could do a whole episode on that. Some fucking some of the shit you convince yourself you had to enjoy because you spent like 50 quid on it. So when you're a kid, 50 quid's a lot of money, man. And it still is now, but more so when you're a kid. So you have to justify oh no, this James Bond Jr. on the Super Nintendo is a really good game. It's bitch, it's got 4 levels and 2 of them suck. What the hell? 50 quid, get out of here with that shit.
Oh my god. There's a game that I remember. I don't know if it was me and you who were talking about this, Rich, or if it was someone else. I can't remember now, but I was talking about my experience with Batman, the video game which I had on my old Amstrad PC. So this includes to how old
90s Batman game, right?
Yeah, and it was on cassette, right?
Yeah.
And as you know, back then, you had to get your games on a cassette tape and put it into the tape deck player, and then it would take about 15 minutes to load up, and then while it was doing that, it would go and make sort of all kind of weird noises while it was loading the data. And I remember being so stoked for this Batman game. I was like, oh my god, it's a Batman game, and I've got it on a computer. I could play it, and putting the tape in and playing it, and literally spending 15 minutes of just side scrolling and throwing a batarang, and then sort of throwing an awkward kick and then a punch at these randos that were just walking across the screen.
Bob the Goon.
And wait, where is this going? Is there an end to this level, or do I just keep walking and throwing batarangs? And literally after about 15 minutes, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, fucking turn it off. And I went into school the next day, and everyone was like, what was the Batman game? And I was like, it was great.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant. Best money I've spent in ages.
Yeah, I think it cost $10.99 back then. I was like, yeah, best.
Oh, why are you twitching? It's no reason. I'm good.
Just depressing memories, but don't worry, it's fine. It's all good.
Well, we can laugh about it now as I say grown. I always have to put grown-ups in mental quotes, but we can laugh about it now because it's just one of those things. As a kid, you just kind of accept it. You don't realize until you get older, and also because again, as you know, we talked about it earlier. We've never had it so good in terms of stuff that we can, in terms of stuff that we can play, watch. I mean, Christ, just load up like, how many evenings have you lost on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something similar, trying to decide what to watch? Like, and you don't even get to actually watch something because by the time you've decided, like, you've narrowed it down, it's fucking like 11:30. So it's easily done.
True.
I've like lost whole evenings like that. It's just, you just get sucked into the choice, and it's overwhelming. So like,
yeah, absolutely, man. Well, listen, before we wrap this thing up, man, I mean, we might as well, as said, address the elephant in the room, which is today, listeners, for those of you who are listening to this today, we had the Avengers Infinity War second official trailer release, which I think has already broken like YouTube. And that's partly down to me because I think I've watched it about 10 times since it released, and it only released about like 5 hours ago. But the trailer, I mean, it looks just epic. Everybody on social media is absolutely losing their minds.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like a silly question to ask, really. But Rob, are you excited for the movie based on what you've seen?
Do you know, I wasn't until I saw that trailer, and the new trailer looks pretty fucking cool. Like I like my Marvel movies. I could probably count on one hand the number I've really, really liked. But you know, Infinity War, the worry I have about it is there's too much going on. Like there's too many people, there's going to be too many like people competing for screen time, and they're all just going to get lost in the mix. It's just going to be a little bit like meh. But that trailer, man, that's it got me going. It got me juiced up. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, I'm feeling it. I'm in now. I'm all in.
Hell yeah! I watched it, and I think there was at least 2 or 3 occasions where I had to choke back the tears and be like, nope, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna get emotional about this.
Yeah.
God damn it. But I just I really love this trailer. Seriously love this trailer, and I think, you know, if the movie can deliver on, you know, even a majority of what we got from the trailer, then we're in for one hell of a movie.
No doubt.
But I hear you with the worry about the characters. I mean, one of the things that kind of settled my worries a bit was hearing the Russo brothers talk about how they handled all of these characters, and they said what they did is they kind of they looked at a lot of sort of ensemble cast movies and the way in which you know, certain movies, like kind of shortcuts and things like that, tell the stories of several important characters, but do it in a vignette style so that it's all kind of you know, everything fits together, but everybody gets their little section where they're important to that part of the story. And that really kind of made me think like, okay, so these guys have done their research. And I mean, and we know from Captain America, the Winter Soldier, which is an awesome movie.
That's probably my favorite of all the Marvel movies. It's just so fucking good.
Yes, awesome movie. We know from that you know, these guys do their research when it comes to other movies and picking, you know, the right things to kind of balance out their story. So yeah, it's definitely got me excited. But Rich, as Mr. Comic Book Guru, I'm gonna let you wax lyrical for a minute or two on this one, man. So
listen, you know, I won't stop. Nah, I don't need, you know, you guys talking about tabletop and all this stuff, and like, this is my turf. It's my house. And no, I mean, in talking about the thing of like maybe being too many characters in it. To be honest, I'm not scared. It's never fazed me, just for the simple fact that one of the reasons why the Russo brothers were chosen anyway was their work that they did on Community. I don't know if you guys have ever. Yeah, have you watched Community before?
The first series.
The first series. Yeah. So have you? I think it's the first series, the episode with the paintball. The paintball fight.
Yeah, the first one of those is in the first series. Yeah,
it's the first series. Yeah. And basically, I think the Russo brothers basically did that, and and that's how they got the gig. And I think those 2 episodes are probably some of the best 2 episodes I've ever seen on any show. And I mean, there's quite a few shows I like, but I'm quite particular about what I like. So you see them do that and handle like an ensemble, like, you know, quite a large cast, and deal with everybody who's actually quite different. And then you see them do it again with Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
And then you see them do it again with Civil War. So in essence, if you think about it, each time they've actually taken on a job, it's just got bigger and bigger, and they've still managed to, to work within how they work and not sacrifice anything. So I'm actually happy, and that they've got everybody involved in it. Although for some unknown reason, Hawkeye hasn't appeared in any of the promotions. So so I'm only hoping, I'm only assuming that they're really going to do something really special with him, because he is actually one of those characters that he's got a bit of a cult following and a bit of a fan base.
Yeah, he does.
But it's almost like they don't know what to do with him and how to portray him. So I can only assume that coming off what was the last thing that he was good in? Basically Civil War.
Yeah.
Where he had a bit more of a Civil War and Age of Ultron as well, where he had a bit more of a central role. He'll probably get something a bit better in this.
Hopefully, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just super excited, man. I mean, like, I've been reading comics since I was 5 years old. I was around when the Infinity Gauntlet came out.
Yeah.
And then obviously you had Infinity, which came out a couple of years ago. And also like the Infinity War, then Infinity Crusade. So all of this stuff is stuff that I've been dreaming about since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm just super excited. I've already got my theories about what I think may happen here and there.
Okay.
And there's a couple of scenes that have happened in the trailer, and I'm like, okay, I reckon this is what's going to happen. In fact, let me say one of them now.
All right.
I think that one of the money shots, and I like calling them money shots, because you're watching a film and you just say, like, the film's good, and you're just stroking, and then something amazing happens and you'd be like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna bust a nut here. And I reckon that busting a nut is the money shot. And I reckon this film is gonna have many money shots. Yes. And I think one of the money shots is basically gonna be Bruce Banner inside the Hulkbuster, fighting in Wakanda, and they're basically saying that, you know what, you can't Hulk out here, because you know what, the worst case possible scenario is that if you get taken control of, then we're really going to get fucked. So use the Hulkbuster so you can, to do whatever, because you're the only person who can use it, because Tony Stark's not here, because he's out fighting on Titan, right?
Yeah.
And then the Hulkbuster gets taken down, and you're going to see Banner Hulk out of the Hulkbuster. Mark my words, that's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Probably onto something, actually. Yeah, because I seem to recall, like, there was a bit in the trailer that made it look like the person inside the Hulkbuster is a little bit more hench than Tony Stark. Yeah. I think you might be onto something.
Yeah. So I reckon. So I mean, that's one of the things that stood out. And then obviously you've got that trailer is just full of money shots, man. Like I had to smoke about 4 cigarettes after watching that. And so yeah, I mean, I'm just super excited. I mean, we're gonna do another podcast, I think, just dedicated to that trailer, because it deserves it. And yeah, I just can't wait for April the 27th. I'm already trying to put work in to try and get us premiere tickets, like I did for Black Panther and for The Last Jedi. So yeah, we'll see how it goes from there.
Yeah, it might be a silly question. Is Black Panther in it? Because I really want to. I did really want to see it. I haven't had a chance. I've heard great things.
It is good. Okay, you know what? Like I'm very much like a truthful person. So is it the best Marvel movie? No, it's not. It just, not because it's a bad Marvel movie, but it's not the best Marvel movie.
Okay.
Is it a good movie? Yes.
All right.
Has it got its issues? Yes. But there are people out there that are just like saying it's the best thing. And I mean, obviously, like you said, it's subject to opinion.
Sure.
And certain things may resonate with people on a deeper level. And especially for this film, like, some of the failings that it has, I will let it pass, because the story that it tells to me is somewhat personal. And then, on a cultural level, and then at the same time on a geek level. So it hits me twice. But then I would say basically just see it, because if anything, see it because it's part of cinema history.
Yeah.
That's how it's cinema. I mean, like, I always tell this story about, because I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and I remember before they even announced sequels, also the prequels, and I remember like reading stories of people saying how, they got into film because the first film they saw was like Jaws or Star Wars, and that the opening call of of Star Wars, like, A New Hope, episode 4, A New Hope, and all that stuff. And I remember I used to be jealous because I used to think to myself, like, I'm never going to experience that feeling of never seeing something brand new and different in the cinema. And then I saw The Matrix, and and that just blew, that just blew. I remember watching The Matrix of Jason in the cinema, and 5 minutes in, when it's just the introduction of Trinity, and I held his hand and I turned around to him and I went, Jason, this is the best film in the whole entire world. and that's my Star Wars moment. Yeah. So, I mean, and you get certain films, some of them are like just done, they're just part of history just because. So Titanic isn't an amazing film, but it's part of cinema history because of whatever reason, Yeah. But then Black Panther, I would say, see it if you're not interested in the character, see it because of the cultural reference it will have in cinema history.
Yeah.
So that's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, like, it's already in the top 10 for like all-time domestic gross, right?
Yeah,
all-time box office, all-time worldwide box office is like already top 10. It's like, I mean, I don't know how much longer, because like box offices seem to be a little bit, they don't seem to have a lot of stamina anymore. Like Star Wars, Jedi was the same. I mean, obviously, Last Jedi had a lot of press, and it got quite quite divisive, but. It's Black Panther. I feel like it's, if you don't make like $2 billion in the first couple of weeks, you're not going to make it full stop. Just because it doesn't matter to a point how good what you're putting out there is. It has to like just explode in that first couple of weeks to really have a chance of cracking that top 5. How many times did you have to release Avatar, like 3 cinema releases or something?
Yeah, there was 3
to get up to that top, and like they don't do that anymore, not to the same degree. So I think it's one of those ones. I'm sure it's going to get. It's probably already. In fact, I'm going to have a look now because I'm curious. I have a feeling it's already probably in the top. It's like probably number 9 or 10.
I think it might be number 9.
Yeah, and I would imagine that if you're Last Jedi, you're going to be shitting yourself right now. Well, you should be. Here we go. Here we go. So Black Panther's number 16. It's only 100 and just over 200 million behind Star Wars.
Okay.
Behind Last Jedi. So I think it can crack that top 10. It's like 150 mil off Frozen. And like, to be honest, I'll be quite happy to see Frozen drop out of the top 10 because it's a perfectly good movie. But like, just some of the stupid shit it inspired. People talking about like it being a Christmas movie. Fuck off. The whole point of the film. The whole point of the film is that it's remarkable that it's snowing.
Yeah.
I realise that's also like British Christmas, but
well, it's going to be British this weekend. So
that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, good.
Oh man.
Watching bloody London Transport fall apart again because of snow. It's like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, before we go, yes, I did want to ask you as well, just because I know you're a massive Star Wars fan, Rob. Your thoughts on Solo and the trailers that we've got so far. Are you kind of in the give it a chance camp, or are you in the, oh my God, Alden Ehrenreich looks terrible and this looks awful and the director's got fired, so therefore it's bad, and where do you stand on it?
I was a little bit worried until I saw the second trailer that dropped. So they had that little teaser thing on the first day, and then the day after they had the slightly longer one. And as soon as that dropped, I stopped worrying because it looked quite entertaining. And I mean, Donald Glover, I will watch him play anybody. They could have cast him as Han Solo, and like obviously it would have jarred a bit, but like I would have made my peace with it over time, I'm sure. But it's. I think the cast is strong. I think the production is clearly the production has had its issues, but I just, given what they were saying about some of the tone they'd struck in the original Lord and Miller one, where it was like an Ace Ventura style production, I'm just relieved that we're getting a Ron Howard kind of treatment of this movie, because I really think he's the kind of guy who can. If it needs rescuing, Ron Howard, I trust to rescue it. He's got pedigree. I think he's an Academy Award winner. If not, he's certainly been nominated.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
I think he is. Yeah,
he won for something quite Apollo 13, of course.
Yeah.
I think that was his first Oscar, right?
Yeah, it was. I think so.
Yeah.
because they didn't do it for Happy Days because of some bullshit reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's got pedigree. They're clearly ramping up. Like, if they need somebody to come in and step in and sort stuff out, they're going to like the big guns now, because Michael K. Williams couldn't keep, when they did the reshoots. His schedule didn't work, so they brought in Paul Bettany to replace him. So it's not like they can't, bring in high profile names to kind of fix these problems. And I think Ron Howard, I reckon, will make a good movie. The question is, what did he have to work with in the first place? That's the main thing. Because he reshot like 90% of it, so it will be interesting. Yeah, it was because I think there's some loophole in Hollywood where if you don't reshoot like a certain percentage, then the original producers or directors have to get a credit.
Oh yeah. I've heard about that. Yeah.
And they've managed. The last thing I read about it was that he was, he reshot somewhere in the region of 90% of the movie, so it was well over what it's like 65-70%. I think needs to be reshot before it gets scrubbed, and it was like not even close. It was like well in excess of what was needed to make that happen. So he's basically coming at it with a completely new film, just working from the same script. So it's going to be interesting, I think, to see what happens with it. And I guess the reason I'm optimistic is just because Rogue One is so far my favorite Star Wars movie of the new ones.
Yep, I agree with you. Yep,
I liked Force Awakens. It was very safe. I liked Last Jedi fine. I didn't love it because there was a few things that really bugged me about it. And Rogue One for me was superb. Like, just absolutely fell in love with that film. So good. So if that's a high bar for the standalone movies, but I think that like I say, if I trust anybody to kind of live up to that bar, it's Ron Howard.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. No, you got good fan. I didn't know you were a Star Wars fan, man. Yeah, I'm a big big Star Wars fan as well.
I'm part of like multiple different podcasts, and one of them is Talk Star Wars, and it's British, just Star Wars talk. And if you haven't listened already, I definitely recommend it, because we're very much, the stuff we were saying earlier about like, be good to each other, don't be dicks.
Yeah,
that you can discuss things respectfully. Like, people are actually writing in now, deliberately trying to like not have a row, but deliberately having discussions because they like that, because we're living up to that kind of we're practicing what we preach, basically. So we're saying to each other and don't be dicks and don't be disrespectful of other people's opinions. And when people write in, that's what we do. We're good about it, and we don't just shout people down and all that stuff. And there's not enough of that in fandom. So I think people are responding to it quite positively, because that's quite a nice experience when you're listening to a podcast and they call you out like by name. You get a shout out, and you're just like, oh cool, they mentioned me. It's just like, is a fucking dick. It's like, oh, damn. I mean, they're not wrong, but still, like, damn.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right, man. Well, thanks a lot, as said, Rob, for coming along. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.
Before you go, dude, can you let everybody know where they can find Emotionally 14 and your other podcasts as well?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rob Wade Vision. And so Emotionally 14 is emotionally14.com. So that's numbers, not letters, because we used to have letters, and then somebody bought the domain like in a period where we let it lapse. So I had to work with what I had. So emotionally14.com. And the podcast, the Crazy Train and the E14 Gamecast, are available on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube. Basically, anywhere you can find podcasts, you can generally find the Emotionally 14 podcast. So get on board, because it's a jolly good time.
Cool.
I second that, listeners. It really is amazing. As said, I've really enjoyed the Crazy Train podcast, and I've generally enjoyed everything you guys have done so far, man. So
I appreciate that, man. It's always nice to hear, because it's we talked about earlier about like pain, right? One of the pains is not knowing if people are enjoying what you're doing. It's hard. It's a hard road to hoe. So like, when I always appreciate people telling me whatever their experience is of like whether they enjoyed it or wasn't really for them. I'm always like so thrilled to hear it, because on the days when it's hardest to keep going with it, because for whatever reason, like just getting on top of you, stuff like that is what keeps you, just keeps you going and stops you from just quitting.
For sure. All right, thanks a lot, dude. Well, listeners, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks a lot for joining us and for listening. If you like what you heard, then you know what to do. Leave us a review on iTunes. There'll be a short trailer at the end as well of the recording, so you'll know where to go to find us and stuff like that. Rich Kid, where can people holler at you at, man?
See, I was gonna say in your girlfriend's wardrobe because you came home early, but then you know what? I don't think it'd be funny. I'm not to you personally. I'm just gonna put it out there. But you know what? It's a lie because I'm in my bed recording a podcast with two grown ass men at 11 o'clock on a Friday. So
you're clearly not. Are you?
Exactly. Yeah, not even. Or am I? But anyway. On Instagram, you can find me in the Rich. I always forget it. It's just Rich Reviews, isn't it? It's not Rich Reviews. My other one. Yeah, so Rich Reviews on Instagram. I don't obviously with the Instagram, Wulong Talks, and then website for the blog www.wulongtalks.com. We're also on Twitter underneath Wulong Talks. We have a Tumblr, which I don't think we've used in a little while for Wulong Talks as well.
Oh, mate,
and
scratch the surface.
And yeah.
Tumblr's a weird.
Say again?
People.
It is weird.
Where is?
It's so weird.
Where's Tumblr?
Tumblr,
yeah. Tumblr is like the bastard cousin of like the dark web. I swear to God, man.
But yeah, it's slightly more palatable. But yeah. That's that. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm gonna say good night. So it's good night from me. Rich, say good night.
Au revoir.
And Rob, say good night, dude.
Good night.
And we'll see you around, people. Take care of yourself and peace.